This is Jack Dempsey, a legend in his time. And Bill Hines, boxing expert, editor of the Fireside Book of Boxing, author of the great boxing novel, The Professional. Jimmy Cannon, the distinguished syndicated columnist of the Hearst Press. The hard rock from Brockton, Rocky Marciano, who never tasted defeat. These then are our panelists. They have seen the very films that our viewers have seen, and I'd like to begin with you, Jimmy Cannon, because at the bout, you were directly situated to see Clay throw the punch. Was there a punch?
Yes, there was a punch, Howard, but I didn't think it was hard enough to crush a grape. The ring lights were very hot. The only explanation I can give for the way Liston fell was that perhaps he was sunstruck by the lights. It was a hoax in the sense, I don't think it was a fix in the sense that money was passed, but I don't think that Liston tried as hard as he should. He just took a punch and got out of there. That's the way it looked to me. Afterwards, when he got up, he certainly wasn't unconscious. He seemed in possession of his faculties. He ducked, knew enough to duck, about 5 or 6 right and left hands. Now, I'm not jumping on the bandwagon after the fight. Before the fight, I refused to pick a winner because I didn't like the circumstances of it. People connected with it. The mere fact that Liston owns 22.5% of the stock in the company that promoted it. They make an excuse that he doesn't really own it anymore, but it's in the name of William Crawford. I asked Sam Margulies, who's connected with the promotion and seems to be Liston's manager, although he denies it, whose name it was in. And he said, William Crawford. And I said, who is William Crawford? And he said, Liston's father-in-law.
Hi, Jimmy. I'm going to move from that to Rocky Marciano because, Rock, you and I were seated together right beneath Liston, virtually, where he fell. Weren't you under the impression that he slipped or tripped rather than fell?
Yes, I did, because Clay was in no position at the time to throw a solid punch. He was moving from side to side in those funny moves that he makes, and it looked like he pulled back threw a sort of a leading right hand without too much power. But from the films, evidently after he threw it halfway, he then put some power behind it and did get in about 6 inches of punching power.
Didn't you feel that Walcott thought Liston slipped or tripped?
Yes, he acted that way because he just didn't start the count at all.
Well, here's a good chance, gentlemen, for a break. We'll get to Bill Hines and Jack Dempsey in just a minute, so let's take 60 seconds out for another kind of sport, shall we?
This is log rolling, a sport that demands the balance of a tightrope walker, the agility of a tumbler, and the stamina of a lumberjack. Yes, when it comes to a champion, the proof is in the rolling. And when it comes to a champion smoking tobacco, the proof is in the puffing. That's why Prince Albert is America's largest-selling smoking tobacco. Yes, the proof is in the puffing. Prince Albert burns steady. Prince Albert smokes cool. Prince Albert tastes fresh. And now, for the man who prefers the convenience of a pouch, Prince Albert comes in this handy new foil pouch, as well as the famous pocket tin. Pouch or tin, the proof is in the puffing.
Oh, the proof is in the puffin'. Prince Albert has the flavor most favored in the USA.
Try Prince Albert in the handy new foil pouch or famous pocket tin.
All right, let's resume and let's talk to the Manasseh Mauler, Jack Dempsey. Jack, you deliberately did not look at that fight until today when you've seen the films.
That's right.
What's your view of the films?
Well, there's very little to see, except I saw the punch, and the list looked very slow, and there was so much confusion, you can't tell what was going on.
You think it was a knockout blow?
Well, I don't know how hard he was hit. Not being on the receiving end, you never know just how hard these punches do come over. But I didn't see the punch go over.
Earlier, you were quoted as saying that you didn't want to see the fight or even hear it because you expected that this kind of thing was going to happen.
Well, I felt that something could happen, and I didn't want to, if you can't say something good, why say anything at all? I didn't want to say nothing.
All right, Bill Hines, you edited the very film that the viewers have seen today. You satisfied that there was a sufficiency of force in that punch to knock out Liston?
I think the answer, Howard, rests with Mr. Liston. If he couldn't get up, I think he belongs in Rochester, Minnesota, where the Mayo Clinic is. And if he wouldn't get up, I think he belongs in absentia.
Which is where he'll likely be from here on in.
I think so.
Billy, the thing that puzzles me is the documented record shows that Liston had never before been felled, and Clay had never before been a one-punch knocker-outer. Now, in the wake of those facts, how could this have truly been a knockout punch?
Well, I think you'd have to understand Liston's entire physical condition, and we're not sure of that. We're really not even sure how old he is. He says he's 31, and we say he's 31 plus.
Mm-hmm.
Certainly he looked like an old man, and as the two pros here can tell you, when you get to a certain age, you just don't live under a punch the way you did when you were young. So I think that's a factor too, Howard.
Well, Rocky, when you were not so young really in your career, Archie Moore decked you with a short right that only traveled about 6 inches, didn't it?
Yes, that was when I missed him with my own right hand and had the full force going. And Archie, the clever man, just stepped back just about 3 inches and hit me with the best counterpunch you ever saw. And coming in and he coming in, I just went straight forward.
What do you think about when you go down?
Well, you realize that you can be put down, and it's a frightening thing to know that you can be put down. The punch traveled just a short distance, and you say to yourself, he can do it again, I better be a lot more careful, or a lot more aggressive, either one.
Was Clay's punch at all like Moore's?
No, not really. I thought he just started it more or less to parry, and all of a sudden he saw the opening and he threw some power at the last moment. I've noticed that on the film here. He didn't have his body behind it or any real follow through. It was just a over the right arm and right on the chin. It could have hit him in a good spot and just confused him very much.
Well, as our viewers can see, that punch continues to remain very much in dispute. Our guests have been Jimmy Cannon, Jack Dempsey, Rocky Marciano, and Bill Hines. Thank you, gentlemen. The mystery of the punch unanswered. That's the way it was that May 25th, 1965 in Lewiston, Maine, in a high school hockey rink where they had a heavyweight championship fight. The big questions remain unanswered. Yes, there was a punch, but was it of sufficient force to knock out a man who had never been floored before? What about the referee, Jersey Joe Walcott, and his total confusion? Incidentally, Jersey Joe was invited to appear on the show, but was unavailable. Had he counted, could Liston have been up in time? Did Liston really, for that matter, get a fair share? And what about all of the other bizarre circumstances attending upon the fight? The way it got, for instance, to Liston. Well, some say this was the end of boxing. Congress may bring in a federal boxing commission. Some states want to wipe out boxing. But this may, in fact, have been a new beginning, because Floyd Patterson now in Sweden says he's been promised a fight in the fall. And right now, there's a man in the ring, George Chavallo, and there he is, who wants to fight the heavyweight champion. He's ready at that moment. He may get the next shot. Indeed, this may be a new beginning. That's the story of the big fight, Muhammad Ali against Sonny Liston. What about next week on Wide World of Sports? Well, next week, ABC's Wide World of Sports will be at the Commodore Hotel in New York City for the World Pocket Billiards Championship. Luther Wimpy Lassiter will be defending his title against Joe Balsas. Lassiter and Balsas meet in the finals of this competition involving an outstanding field of America's pocket billiards players. Also next week, we'll present an outstanding topical event of international significance. So be sure to check your local listings for ABC's Wide World of Sports next week. The executive producer of ABC's Wide World of Sports is Rune Arledge. The Clay Liston segment was produced for ABC by Jim Spence and Jim Colligan and directed by Marshall Diskin, Bob Delaney, and John Sedgwick. Parachuting coverage produced by Jack Lubell and directed by William Bennington. Today's remote pickups were by ABC New York and Hollywood. nationwide and worldwide travel arrangements for ABC's Wide World of Sport.